So I will welcome our three panelists today, Namshik Han from the University of Cambridge, then Wiktor Janicki from Roche, and Andrew Fried from IBM. Please have a seat. Welcome.
Thank you.
So first thing you have to know is like AI and machine learning are everywhere in tech nowadays, right? Because we have better and cheaper computer technologies, but also because of the increased huge amount of data available now. So over the past years, we had the biotech and health tech sector who wanted to jump on it. And so artificial intelligence is now democratizing these two conservative sectors. And it's disrupting the whole value chain with, like, in diagnostics, like in personalized treatment, for example, lab assistant, or we have also like in the drug discovery process for big pharma. So we have about 86% of healthcare provider organization, life science company, etc., who are already into it. And by 2020, this organization will spend an average of $54 million on artificial intelligence projects. So what is the role of AI in the future of biotech and healthcare, and who are the different players behind it? So here we have three different players that I'm going to present. So we have Namshik Han. So he's head of computational biology at Milner Therapeutics Institute at the University of Cambridge. The main aim of the group is to develop new computational methods fulfilling the global mission of identifying new or better therapies from the analysis of biological data. So, Namshik, so what are you working on at Milner Therapeutic Institute, and who are you working with?
Yes, actually, I'm from academic background, but we have very strong collaboration with industry. So the Milner Therapeutics Institute at the Cambridge University is dedicated to converting the groundbreaking scientific discovery into therapies. And we established kind of a global therapeutics alliance, which consists of a big pharmaceutical companies like GSK, AstraZeneca from UK, but the Pfizer and J&J from States, and some from Japan and some other places in the world. So we have this kind of more than 75 partners, which is also these big pharmas, but also small and medium-sized biotech companies. But also we also have good collaboration with academics, like, for example, in State Johns Hopkins and Cleveland Clinic, also some Asian universities, and also, of course, from the European side as well. So we are working with a number of industry partners, but also academic partners to deliver kind of better or new therapeutic targets.
Okay, and what's your current project?
So I'm leading computational biology group at the Milner Institute. Our group is developing a cutting-edge bioinformatics techniques, and also heavily applying a computational tools, including machine learning, deep learning approaches to the pharmacogenetics and drug discovery to deliver new targets. So mostly our projects are involving to identify new therapeutic targets across the number of different disease areas, for example, in immuno-oncology and respiratory disease. But also we are doing some kind of stratification of patients for improving precision medicine as well, and a number of other projects that are involved with a biomarker discovery, but also we are heavily doing a prediction of drug efficacy and toxicity for the existing or new drugs. And lastly, we also doing a search for the drug repositioning opportunities.
Okay, thank you. So then we have Wiktor Janicki. So he led the Roche pharma operation in Poland, and Roche is a global leader in biotech and healthcare and personalized healthcare. So there is Roche Global IT Solution Center in Poland, which focused on delivering state-of-the-art IT solution to support the development of innovative drugs. So, Wiktor, so what's your focus in this field at Roche, and how do you envision the machine learning and AI incorporation in a big pharma like that?
Yeah, so as you said, in Roche, we not only have the pharma part of it, but we also have the IT part of it. And I believe that the future of healthcare is really lying at the intersection of these two domains, so the life sciences and the IT in general. I think what we try to focus in in Roche is really trying to get the most out of the data which we already have. I mean, we are trying to capture additional data, but what we've also realized is that the amount of data we already have in-house is enormous, and we're just not making use of it. And the 3,500 IT professionals that work for us in Poland are in part actually working exactly on this. So trying to dig deep into the systems we have, dig deep into the exabytes or whatever it is of data that we already have, and draw meaningful conclusions to actually design, for example, new medicines. So as an example of a project which really involves machine learning, I can give a situation where we analyze, thousands of monoclonal antibodies which we've designed in the past, and we look at certain traits that they have. We actually, the system, the system that was created by these software specialists looks at certain characteristics of these monoclonal antibodies, sees what has worked and what has not, and is able to suggest certain improvements to our upcoming drugs, which is quite amazing because up until now this was mainly laboratory work and a lot of human input working in terms of trial and error, and now we're able to avoid certain mistakes and in the end narrow down the cost, the time, and get the medicines to patients much faster.
Thank you, Wiktor. And then Andrew, so you are working with customer on industry imperative at IBM, and also you're saving lives through to propose like personalized treatment with your customers. You're also like an advocate of sport and fitness.
True.
And you're passionate about the role of genomics in both identifying the cause of disease and also personalized treatment related to it. So I was wondering, who are your main customer right now, and like what has been done since then at IBM?
So let me say that we're doing a whole host of things across the world of artificial intelligence, and we work with life sciences companies, and we take, and clearly we have a whole bunch of stuff that's being done around the research around how to use data effectively. So there's really two kind of things. One's the data side, and the other's bringing it to life sciences. So for example, we announced 5 days ago that we've just created the fastest supercomputer in the world that will come back to America in terms of the rankings of supercomputers, put them on the top again. So that's something that we've done with the Department of Energy. But that technology will come to play in doing the analysis that will be used by the life sciences companies. And then a little bit more mundane things, but things like storage, for example, how to do storage cheaply and effectively. We have this explosion of data. You talked about exabytes, but we're really at petabytes, and how to handle that data and store it effectively. I'll give you one example. We've heard this afternoon a lot of talk around genomic data and whole genome sequencing. 2010, it used to cost about $10,000 to do a whole genome sequence. Today, we heard earlier by, I think your colleague at Roche actually mentioned it, said it was $600, okay? Dramatic fall. So we've seen this huge uptake of sequencing. At the same time, how do you handle that data? So the advances in around, say, storage, if you think about storage going back to 2010, it would cost maybe $1 million to store a petabyte of data. Today it's around $10,000 or $100,000. So huge advances in technology. And then we take it to companies. You asked about what companies we're sort of working with. We work with, for example, Pfizer around drug discovery. We're working with a consortium of which Agfa Healthcare is part of around imaging and being able to sort of analyze imaging, which is a critical issue. It's probably around 60–70% of all data is image, in terms of volume of data, is imaging related data. So, for example, in the United States, 2015, 60 billion medical images were taken. So how do you analyze that data? You need some artificial intelligence tool to sift through that data and find the insights. So that's what we're trying to do.
Okay, and do you have sometimes like legacy problem to implement this new solution for for Pfizer, for example, where they have like their old software, etc.? How?
Well, I mean, the discovery process, for example, is always an extremely difficult process. So even with the best tools and the best technology, you know, you go down paths that don't always work out. So things aren't always that easy. So as an example, you know, I think a couple of days ago, AstraZeneca sort of had to sort of cut a phase 3 trial around, you know, Alzheimer's. You know, everybody was going down a certain path. There's about, I think there's about 4 different trials that have actually been, you know, cancelled in this area. So it's extremely difficult, even with all the best technology and insights, to get success. So you're constantly dealing in industry where it's a huge challenge to, you know, identify the right opportunities. What are you going to take things, you know, what things are you going to take to clinical trial? And then, you know, when do you kill things? You know, like, you know, AstraZeneca, at what point do I take a phase 3 trial, which is, you know, before it really goes to market? You know, and trials, each trial is probably going to cost about, you know, $600 million to $900 million. It costs, we know, $2.8 billion to take a molecule or product to market. And about 60% of that cost is the clinical trial. So, you know, so this industry is used to failure, but the cost, you know, balance is extremely high. It's very difficult to get it right, even with all the right technology.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. And I have a question for everyone. So what's your counterintuitive, half crazy prediction for the next 10 years in this field?
Okay, I will kick off.
Yeah.
As you requested a half crazy idea, so maybe this is completely crazy, but the first thing is that Ron Park, the Roche fellow, and also some other people already mentioned that data generation is excessive these days in biomedical area. To be honest, I'm a computational scientist, so to be honest, the biomedical field, the big data is not really big as kind of physics in some other scientific areas. But I think in 10 years' time, I'm sure that we will have really a lot of data sets that we can using for AI. And also in the meantime, AI technology will develop for sure. So I think at the moment, many people doing AI research in the early drug discovery, for example. But I think it will expand a lot to much more in downside, like clinical or even before the clinical stage, but even after FDA approvals. So what that means, maybe the pharma company, they can using AI technology in the manufacturing of the real drugs. So what that means is also we can deliver the precision medicine. We have to make really customized single drug for each patient. That means that's quite challenging, I mean, in the manufacturing side. But I think robotics, AI, and this kind of things is developing in 10 years. Then we can using the AI through the new drug discovery pipeline that can deliver really customized precision medicine drugs for the patient. So that's what I think, and I hope that can be happen in 10 years' time.
Wow.
It's half crazy.
Yeah, it's what we need.
Maybe half crazy. We're very much aligned. And my hope, actually, and a half crazy idea is really a truly personalized, individualized treatment. So the fact that, you know, just based on genomic profiling and based on all the wealth of the data we will have about a patient, we will be able to, in a very short time, produce a drug that is completely personalized to that person. And we see inroads into that area. We see personalized cancer vaccines, which are actually built on that idea and are entering into clinical trials. But what I would be hoping for is we will be able to move beyond oncology, to move into other areas where the biology might be even more complicated, and really find the truly individualized treatment, so that, you know, you basically, you know, do some diagnostics, and then you get your own personalized drug shipped to you through Amazon or whoever else.
So I think from my perspective, it's really around in some respects, it's almost seen like it's an inhibitor to making some of these happen, and that's the regulators. And that's the regulators will enable, you know, real-world evidence. It'll enable sort of advisory tools to actually operate, so that we can then use the technology, some of the artificial intelligence tools, actually in a clinical environment. And I think that'll be a huge development. And I think it'll happen because the pressures on our healthcare systems regarding cost and the demands that, you know, really effectively a consumerized patient is putting on the system.
Thank you. Very, very crazy prediction. that will happen hopefully. And now, so we don't have a question on Slido, unfortunately, but what I can propose you is like, can you ask one question to each other that could interest very well the audience? And
maybe I can ask you to both, because you are in the industry side. In the first panel discussion of this afternoon, many panelists said kind of collaboration, open innovation is critical factor, and also this should be oriented by kind of academics like universities, like for example in the States, Boston, Bay Area, California is all academic-driven areas. But also in the UK, we do have a lot of universities, but Oxford and Cambridge is one of the very good examples. And Cambridge, I'm there, so I'm selling the Cambridge, but we do have very, very strong and enriched background in science. So we are now developing kind of cluster, biomedical cluster in the Addenbrooke site, where our university hospital located. For example, AstraZeneca recently moved into this campus with 5,000 researchers. So we are making this kind of cluster. So I'm just wondering, like IBM, Roche, you have any kind of plan, or what you are actually doing for open innovation and collaboration?
Well, I mean, from an IBM perspective, we believe in open systems, and one of the things that we've tried to do around the industry is sort of make a cloud environment available that's, that's actually in a regulated environment. So as we get to the patient and some of the data, and if we need it for, submission data, then it has to be collected and basically maintained securely in a regulated environment, whether that's GXP or HIPAA, depending on whether we've got devices or people that are associated with the data. That's one of the key challenges for the industry. So IBM sort of is trying to facilitate that process, for example.
No, right.
And from a life science perspective, and specifically Roche, I think we're definitely open to looking for partners and to building collaborations, because we do recognize that there is no single company which knows it all and which has all the knowledge inside. So we're constantly looking for building meaningful collaborations, which actually, but it has to be synergistics. I think this is the main component, that out of the collaboration we really expect to get something which will add on top of what we already have, rather than just combining the sheer size, because it is not about the size, it is about the innovation, it is about the power of the science behind it. So I think as long as there is good science, we're definitely open to collaboration.
Okay, thank you.
So my turn to go with a question. Are we done? So if I can, actually, this is a unique setup because I am Polish and you guys are not. So I will ask you a question of, what is your perception of Poland in terms of its potential in the either AI, machine learning, or biotech in general? I don't know how much you know about Poland, but it will be great to hear the kind of initial impression, and also what can we do to actually develop better in this area in Poland?
Yeah, I'm South Korean. I think Poland and South Korea, we do have a lot of things in common. Like, for example, you are very good at IT, for example, because you are very good at mathematics and computer science. Obviously, you know that Korea is also very good at IT, like Samsung, LG, they making a lot of smartphones, TV, and everything. So I think also in this morning, I heard Poland PM, Prime Minister, he's saying about machine learning, deep learning, AI, and healthcare industry. So I think Korean government have same plan for the future. So I think it's very promising, and I know that Poland is very good at this kind of field. So I think if you're coupling with IT, with healthcare, or even drug discovery industry, I think it will synergistical effect, and then I think you're going to be very successful. I'm very excited to see this kind of movement is being around in Poland.
So from my point of view, I think we talked a lot about collaboration and and how you impact healthcare outcomes. And I think one of the things in Poland, you have a very good pharmaceutical company, Polpharma. We heard from Marcus earlier this morning in the other room talking about some of the things that he's trying to do. But I think the ability to have a company like that works with government, that works with other industry members to try and facilitate change, you know, and get a better healthcare outcome, reduce cost, all those kind of things, and look at it holistically, right? So it's how do you look at it from a healthcare provider standpoint, you know, from the the industry standpoint, you know, where you've got, you know, companies like yourself here. How do you sort of collaborate, you know, across the board to affect change? And I think that's one of the advantages that you have, you know, in Poland.
Oh, great, thank you.
So, Andrew, do you have a question you would like to ask?
I've sort of lost track of my questions, but the question really would be about,
yeah.
you know, we get back to artificial intelligence. I mean, how do you see it developing? I mean, in some respects, there's a lot of media attention around artificial intelligence, right, in the area of autonomous driving, right? And we see all this discussion around, you know, say, a car accident in which one person is killed, right? And is that going to stall the industry, say, you know, in its development in the United States? But we also know that 40,000 people a year die on the roads in America, right? And one person dies in an autonomous car accident, and it's like, oh, you know, we need to, how are we going to address that issue? What, do you see any parallels in our industry, in life sciences and healthcare, that might either slow the, you know, development down or not? Or what do we need to address to, you know, preempt something?
Well, I definitely see that. I mean, there are some ethical questions which are still unanswered in terms of, especially when we come to the area of decision support systems, so helping doctors decide on the potential treatment and you know, on altering the course of the disease. This is where you really get to the question of, so to what extent is the decision and the responsibility still lying with the physician, and to what extent is it lying within IT system, which, be it AI or whatever you want to call it, it is still essentially an inhuman device that is making that decision. And here, essentially, you know, the mistake, if you make a mistake, has the power to be magnified on a world scale. So I think here, in a much more profound way, we actually see these kind of dilemmas, to me at least, maybe because I'm close to it, than in the automobile industry. And I don't actually see a lot of media attention to this, but it will come at some stage, and I think we just have to be prepared for that. And we, as the different parts of industry, should be actually at the forefront of having that discussion, so that when we get to that point, we're ready and we have all the ethical answers for that as well.
It's a very complex issue because, you know, if you have a, say, a diabetes device dispensing insulin automatically, so the FDA approved a device for the first time last year, September of 2017. So it enables the automatic dispensing of insulin based on a patient data, you know, that they're collecting real time. But, and you can have an algorithm around that, right? But if the and you can regulate around a fixed algorithm. But if the algorithm changes, how do you regulate around an algorithm that changes? These are things that haven't yet been addressed, but clearly patients change, right? Patient data, you know, they change. So the algorithm might be a learning algorithm, and hence it will change. So how do I regulate that? These are things that we don't hear about, but clearly our governments and regulators have to address, and they're very complex issues.
Absolutely.
So thank you very much. Applaudissements for our three panelists.